Okay, I might just stop watching adaptations of anything altogether, okay? I might, because I don't like the fact that I'm low-key about to hate on this show, and based on what I've heard, I'm probably gonna hate on the Avatar show when it comes out in a couple weeks too. Before I really get into anything, I just want to say that all opinions on the show are valid, and if you like it, I'm not saying you're wrong or you have to hate it. It's your opinion. You're allowed to think what you want, agree or disagree. Nobody's word is law. Copy? Copy. I was literally so excited when they announced this shit. Rick Riordan working on it too this time. Oh my God, it's gonna be the best thing in the world. This is my favorite book series since middle school. I've read every one of the other series all the way down to Trials of Apollo and Magnus Chase. So December of last year was getting closer. They announced the castings and everything. Sure, the characters mostly weren't accurate to their book versions in terms of looks, but who cares? I really only gave a fuck about seeing my favorite stories being adapted. Unfortunately, as I allowed myself to get excited for the show to come out, I forced myself to ignore one major detail. It was being made by Disney, whose sole purpose seems to be to absolutely suck and drain the life from damn near every single thing they adapt. They've done it with half the MCU post-Endgame. Almost all their live-action remakes of their animated movies are awful. I still can't scrub The Lion King and Mulan from my memory. I wasn't really thinking about all that though. All I was thinking was, oh my God, Percy Jackson's getting another chance at live action. Honestly, I wish I had a time machine to go back and tell myself to just, tone down the expectations. I'm making this video right now without even fully finishing the show. I mean, I only got a few minutes of the final episode left, but I just stopped because it was getting so irritating. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. I promise I've seen worse. I sat through all of Inhumans, and I think it actually changed me as a person. But these books were such a huge part of my early life that seeing an adaptation fail for the second straight time is just disheartening. Maybe fail is a strong word because it got renewed for season 2 and they can still turn it around. I'd say the first season was just fumbled. At first, I didn't know what the problem was. After the first 3 episodes came out, I knew something was off, but I couldn't exactly identify it. I thought I was liking it. I think the first red flag was that I decided to wait until the end of the season to binge it after I finished episode 3. Once I caught myself saying, I'll just wait for the rest to come out, I knew something was off. I've been waiting for this show for years. This is something I had dreamed of since middle school, and I was saying, I'll catch up. Really? When I'm into something, I watch every single episode the second they come out. When the final season of AOT was coming out, I was on that the second them episodes dropped, I'm telling you. So that's when it first hit me. When the last episode came out, though, I decided to spin the block, rolled a couple spliffs, sat down, picked up where I left off after episode 3, and finished the show up to where I am now, which is like 5 minutes left in the finale. I'm basically done, bruh. Probably the thing that's the most annoying to me is the fact that I can't even say that most of my issues with the show are just because I'm a nitpicky book reader. With the original movies, if you haven't read the books, you'd probably fuck with them. They're entertaining, they draw you in, and sure, they butcher the story from a book reader's perspective, but I can admit that if I wasn't an insufferable Percy Jackson fan, I might have liked them. With this show, it's kind of poor from both a book reader's perspective and a new fan's perspective. The title of this video was kind of misleading because it says the problem with the Percy Jackson show, but I'm not going to lie to you, I'm about to rant about numerous issues, so oops, sorry. For me, I feel like shit from the books was happening that was supposed to be cool, and instead of getting hyped, I was just saying, oh wow, nice, I recognize that. What's next? It felt like they just bookmarked a bunch of different points in the book and were just fulfilling each one, hopping straight from point to point without taking time in between with the other things and taking time to build up the world for real. There's a very distinct lack of life in the show. It's like they're, filling out a checklist. Things are just going. There's not enough good character moments, small things that aren't directly relevant to the main plot. That's how we connect with characters, and that's what made the book so unique and charming. I feel like some people will respond to that with, those things aren't necessary to the plot, so you're just being a nitpicky book reader. But since when do shows have to just be the plot? That's one of the problems. This shit is just the direct plot. Grover eating cans? Nope. Actually, the only thing he opens his mouth for is exposition dumps. Karen being broke as hell with a weird Italian suit obsession? Nope. He's just generic, dark, hooded creature of the night. That shit was lame, bruh. Almost every single thing that made the Percy Jackson series stand out, they stripped it away. Why? It's not just the silly little things. There's important character moments too that just aren't there. The ride in the truck to Vegas was supposed to be the biggest bonding moment in the first book. Not only do they really get into Grover's extreme guilt about what happened to Thalia, Percy and Annabelle get way closer on that ride. They talk about her family, Percy tries to give her advice about what to do with her dad, and we get a really in-depth look at Annabelle's character. I'm pretty sure they even reference it in Mark of Athena as the first major milestone in their relationship. I could be wrong about that. I haven't read Mark of Athena in like 5 years, but I'm pretty sure they mention it. And then in the show, they just combined it with the iris message scene that was supposed to be earlier to fit into some imaginary time constraint they put on themselves. That's the thing with Disney, and it's been aggravating me for years. Your show doesn't have to be a maximum of 8 half-hour episodes. Like, do they know that? I really don't think they do. Moon Knight was so okay because they rushed it. One of the most complicated characters in Marvel history, and they pack his origin into 6 episodes. Like, what the fuck? If you're a book reader watching this show, your first thought is probably going to be, why the fuck are we going so fast? Just bulldozing from plot point to plot point as if we're not supposed to actually care about these characters. I'm being so dead ass right now. I did not feel a thing for a single character in this show until Sally and Poseidon's conversation in the 7th episode. Mind you, one of the biggest strengths in the books is how easily we're able to connect with these characters and how easy they are to like. It's not being a nitpicky book reader. It's just being kind of annoyed that they're severely underrepresenting a great story. That's another thing with the books, and I guess it's not exactly fair to say this is a criticism. It's more like an observation. The books have the major advantage of Percy's inner monologue throughout the entire story, and that's 80% of why the books are so hilarious. I've seen a few other people mention it, and they're right. Percy's a dickhead, and his thoughts are funny as fuck. Without the inner monologue, you're forced to use generic Disney one-liner humor most of the time, which we all know hasn't really been funny since the Stone Age. I honestly think they could have found a way to use his inner monologue in the show. I mean, it's been done before. The Batman kinda did it, and it worked perfectly. No Batman adaptation had ever used his journal entries before, and the journal entry narration was a huge reason why Batman Year One was so outstanding and seen as the definitive Batman comic origin. They pulled it out in the Batman movie, and everybody loved it. Of course, it's different than having an inner monologue throughout the entire season, but we've seen weirder things work. I don't know. Maybe they could have done something. That's not really a criticism, though. Just, a little observation. I don't think they had to do that. The other big issue is one that almost everybody has brought up so far. Why do they already know everything? It's so lame, bruh. There's no type of suspense or tension or anything because every time they get somewhere new, they just automatically know everything about the place or the monster. Lotus Hotel and Casino? Oh, of course we know all about it, and we already know not to eat the food. Procrustes? Yes, I know all about you. You're gonna try to stretch me to death. Statues? Well, it must be Medusa. To be fair, the Medusa one would probably be easy to figure out, especially for somebody like Annabeth. The other two annoyed me a little bit more, though. It was probably even more annoying for people who hadn't read the books, because they didn't even get the chance to be surprised or figure out who the characters or places were. They're just told off rip. It makes it so much more boring. I wouldn't be surprised if Titan's Curse comes around and he just strolls up to the general in the museum and says, I know you, you're Atlas. In Battle of the Labyrinth, he's going to walk into the arena and say, I know you, you're Antaeus, and I have to get you off the ground to beat you. And then it's going to be something stupid like Percy stabbing him while he's doing a jumping jack or something. I don't know. I got no faith, bruh. That's another thing. Not only do they immediately know everything, the ensuing fights are so ass. If you look at the fights in the show and then compare them to how entertaining they were in the books, it's embarrassing. How are literal words more entertaining than the actual visuals? How? In the books, the Medusa fight was tough as hell. Grover was flying around in the bird shoes, beating on her with a stick. Percy was ducking and weaving with a glass ball. She was roaring and shit. It was chaotic as fuck, and I was excited to see how they do it here. And then in the show, she just yaps for like 5 minutes straight, and then Annabeth slaps a hat on her head, and Percy cuts an invisible Medusa's head off. How do you lamify a fight this badly? How? That wasn't the only time. In the books, when the Furies attack on the bus, there's a wild fight scene where Percy grabbing the steering wheel and slamming them into windows by swerving the whole bus. He kills one of them with Riptide. The bus explodes while they run away. It was wild. Then in the show, the Furies just walk towards them real slow, and Annabeth throws a knife and they dip. I cannot stress how ass that shit was. Even in the underworld, doesn't Hades literally summon the dead to surround them while he threatens them? To actually make him intimidating? In the show, that whole underworld scene was just empty. Empty as fuck. You can pretty much describe the entire show like that. Just empty. It always feels like there's something missing throughout the entire thing. Like, y'all remember beginning of episode 7? We just show up in Krusty's shop. What? How'd they get there, bruh? It's like they were saving the budget or something, but I really don't know what they could have been saving it for, because nothing really looked that good. Almost all of Riptide's transformations were off screen. A lot of the show looked cheap as fuck. Extremely cheap. That Ares versus Percy fight, that background, I saw it in the trailer and said, no way, that's how it's actually going to look in the show. No way. Spoiler alert, it was. The majority of the show just looks so bland and blah. The cinematography is so weird. I don't get how each episode of this show costs $50 million. That's insane. Bro, there's literally some shots where, like, not even some shots. Most of the show is like from the waist up, like they're scared to like show their legs. I don't know, bruh. Season 1 of Game of Thrones cost $6 million per episode. I'm only a few episodes into that show. Yes, I know I'm late. Leave me alone. But just from the few episodes I've watched, the difference is laughable. That show was so much cheaper and it looks absurdly better. Mind you, they actually have like real costumes in that show, like a variety. You could find all the costumes in the show in a thrift shop, bro. Hermes is wearing a hoodie. Like, the gods are not even wearing real godly shit, bro. Hermes walking around in a hoodie. Ares wearing a leather jacket, bro. Come on. I'm not saying they have to be wearing, like, godly shit, by the way, because they don't wear godly shit in the books either. They be wearing human clothes. I'm saying that's part of what gives them a financial advantage over shows like Game of Thrones. So how does Game of Thrones look better than you in every single way when it costs that much less? The lighting, the landscape shots, the close-up shots, the lighting, again, I'm just putting emphasis on lighting because having good lighting seems to be a completely lost art in the modern day. Don't even get me started on how dark everything was. Oh my Lord, I damn near had to press my eyeballs on the TV trying to decipher what the hell was happening sometimes. Especially around episode 5 and 6, I feel like those were the two worst episodes when it came to the pure pitch blackness. There's other nitpicks I have that I want to bring up just because I want to get it all out. There's a lot of things swimming around in my head about this show that I've been trying to put into cohesive words for a while. I feel like them toning down Gabe wasn't fully a good thing. A major reason why Sally is such a hero is because she stuck through the abuse to protect Percy. I feel like empowering her in the typical yell at her husband way does a disservice to her character. Sally's perseverance through Gabe's abuse is the best display of who she is, sacrificed for the sake of her child that she loved. In the show, she's honestly cooling. Yeah, Gabe's a dick, but if she raises her voice, he's gonna fold. They watch Knicks games together, as Gabe implied. He clearly didn't put her through anywhere near as much as Book Sally. He seems like a mean stepdad at worst. That's not to say she didn't sacrifice anything at all. She probably had to take a Tylenol or two from Gabe stressing her out with his stupidity, but it's obvious they severely toned him down, most likely for age and maturity reasons. And, well, it's whatever. I don't know. That was just my personal favorite thing about Book Sally because of very personal reasons that I'm not going to get into. And it's not a crime that they tone Gabe down, but it's kind of just like, damn. Making Sally less defeated in this specific scenario kind of doesn't make any sense. It's something small, but it's still something. They also skip over a lot of shit that book readers understand perfectly fine, but if you're completely new to Percy Jackson, you have no idea what the fuck is going on. Why does Sally stay with Gabe? Why is Dionysus even at camp? Why are the gods even in America in the first place, actually? We know why, because we read the books, but people who are just watching Percy Jackson and getting into the universe for the first time don't know. It's like the show was made with the assumption that only book readers would be watching it with the characters already knowing everything and them leaving important details out. It's a classic case of an adaptation adding stuff without bothering to also add the significance of those things. The whole reason Percy jumped off the arch was so that the family would be safe, but I'm gonna be real. I don't remember anybody being up there with them. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the same with the characters themselves. Luke's scar is symbolic of his hatred for Hermes and the gods. I don't even think they mention his quest though. They don't give characters the space to either be flawed or show their core characteristics either. Of course, Annabeth already knows about Krusty and sends Percy in to handle it. She can't make mistakes and be impulsive, which led to her being trapped by Krusty in the books and gave Percy room to show off his improvisation and quick thinking to save his friends. Nope, there's no fun or interesting stuff allowed in this show. Just, I already knew that. Let's get rid of you and move on to the next slight road bump that won't actually put us in any danger because we know everything and we're already prepared. Grover over there defying Dionysus and chatting up Ares. Didn't he literally almost shit himself every time he was in the presence of a god in the early books? It's still Lightning Thief. Like, I don't get it. Why are they already developed in the first book? There's no room for growth for Grover. I also feel like the gods don't even feel like gods for real. I know in the books it's kind of part of the point that they don't immediately appear to be gods, but that wasn't supposed to be the case with Ares. Didn't he have like exploding eyes and an aura of hate? Show Ares is just Edge on a motorcycle. They didn't give him any aura. actually threatening music, like anything special to make him stand out as a god. Like if I walk past the show version of Ares, I'd probably like, give him a little nod, give him a little greeting, be polite. I mean, he looks like an intimidating dude, but he's not really scary. Ares should be somebody you should want to cross the street when you pass him at night. Like, show Ares just doesn't feel like that. I'm gonna be honest. Probably one of the most annoying things the show did, though, was completely water down or just remove the more serious themes. I especially have an issue with their representation of Luke and Percy's relationship and Percy and Poseidon's relationship. Yes, I know, it's a children's show. I know it's a children's show. I know it's a children's show and blah, blah, blah. I keep seeing that same excuse all over the place, and it's kind of silly because the books were children's books too, and they had no problem incorporating more mature themes. It doesn't make any sense. It's like Rick is prioritizing the old book audience in some cases by glossing over stuff that he feels like they already know, but then he also seems to be completely ignoring the fact that that same book audience grew up. I don't know, bruh. Percy isn't as spiteful when it comes to his father and the gods as he is in the books, and I'm not sure if they were trying to make him more perfect and loving or something, but part of what makes him and Luke's rivalry so good is the fact that he explicitly agrees with Luke numerous times in Lightning Thief. He's bitter towards his father, and even though he subconsciously craves Poseidon's approval, he still has contempt for him. He obviously doesn't agree with the extent of Luke's hatred towards the gods or the methods he chooses, and that's where they diverge, but it's clear that they're supposed to have a T'Challa and Killmonger kind of thing going on, and that's what made their rivalry so good. Those relationships with his father and Luke in the show are so watered down. There's key quotes missing, like the one where Poseidon calls Percy a mistake, or some of the other quotes where Percy outwardly expresses his sympathy with Luke's view of the gods. I'm not going to criticize the performances or anything just because there's no point. At the end of the day, most of the problems with their performance are just going to boil down to their age and inexperience. They're going to get better the older they get. Now, I'm not saying there was no positives in the show at all. In my opinion, they're just completely overshadowed by the negatives because the negatives stand out so much in comparison. I think I'm going to just leave it at that, to be honest. Not because that's all I got to say, but I got homework, bruh. My professor's been on my ass. They don't give a damn about no Percy Jackson. I just know I sound like a hater right now, and I just want to say that I have no issue with anyone that likes this show. If you thought it was good, more power to you. You can like anything you want. Me personally, I just don't bang with it. I'm sorry. If I had to describe the show, I'd honestly say it felt like an ashy leg in dire need of lotion. Quite possibly one of the most disappointing shows I've ever seen, only relative to the amount of hype I had for it. It's not really bad or anything. I wouldn't call it awful. It's just there. That's all. Okay, bye. See y'all later. If I ever see y'all again. I'm sorry, that was mad dark for no reason. I'm gonna see y'all next time. Bye.